I'm Dominique Ansel, pastry chef and owner of Dominique Ansel Bakery, and today I'm going to show you my perfect croissant. Here in New York City, we have 3 bakeries, and we also have 2 bakeries in Las Vegas, Caesars Palace and the Paris Hotel. I eat a croissant like you're tasting wine. You're gonna see this golden, beautiful crust, all these layers that are slightly separating on the side. It has to be moist, it has to be still tender in the center, but with nice crunchy flake on the outside. I look at the cross section, which we call the honeycomb. The honeycomb should be this little air pocket within the layers of the croissant, which tells you that the croissant is beautifully made. The very first thing we do for making a croissant, it's mixing the dough. If you are making croissant at home, a few tips and tools that you need. I think for sure using digital scales. I measure everything in metrics because it's a lot more precise. Digital thermometer as well, very important. We want to try to keep things as cold as possible. As the mixing process, the friction will rise the temperature within the dough. The flour is probably one of the most important ingredients in our croissant. This is a flour from France, from Les Grands Moulins de Paris, a flour maker in France. The quality of the wheat, the quality of the soil, this is one of the most crucial ingredients into making the croissant, because you get something that is the quality and the specificity of making a croissant that will hold the gluten, that will absorb the water properly and give you like a very specific and unique texture that you cannot get with any other flour. The levain that we use, it's for both flavor and fermentation. It helps with the characteristic of the taste of the croissant, makes it like very unique and special, the deep yeasty flavor. And it's also a leavening agent, so it helps like making the croissant puffy and light. This is a mixer that's designed for dough specifically, so only the bowl and the hook are moving. We're gonna put all our dry ingredients within the mixer. Then we're gonna add our levain, add the honey. It's to give the yeast some food, but also for the flavors and texture. Without the honey, the texture of the dough is different. Then we're gonna add our butter here. We use Easy Saint-Mer butter, high quality ingredients, and that makes a huge difference within the quality of the croissant you get. Then we're gonna add the milk, the extra protein makes the croissant just a little bit richer. Eggs. Here we have our yeast that's been dissolved with room temperature water. We're gonna add this to the side here. Here we add the water at the end. We're gonna close the gate. We're gonna start mixing. The motion and the friction of the hook within the dough is gonna make everything warmer. So the longer you mix, the warmer it's gonna get. Our sweet spot here is between 22 and 24. It cannot be above 30 degrees. You will start killing the fermentation, killing the levain and the yeast. Making dough in a small stand mixer is not ideal, even with a hook, because you have a lot of friction. Oftentimes that is too hot and not elastic enough. What I find, like using this type of mixer that is designed for dough, it makes the dough more combined, mix faster with more elasticity without overheating the dough. The snap should be strong, should be like a lot of resistance. Right now I can grab it and pull it easily. So I'm gonna mix for another minute. We use the same levain, the same recipe, the same ingredients every single day. There's so many variables that makes it too tricky to give too many details on what we're looking for. Winter, it will change. The summer will change, depending on the flour. Yeah, the difference is like already like much bigger. So I can feel just after like minute of mixing, the dough is a lot more elasticity. But we're gonna stretch it very thin in center to see how much elasticity we have here. You should be able to do this to the dough, and for the dough to bounce back without breaking. You can see like thin like paper right now. And we're activating the fermentation between 22 and 24 Celsius. That's the sweet spot. Still got it. If we get the dough after mixing between 22 and 24, we're activating that fermentation. So the dough is gonna start like puffing up and rising. If for some reason it's a little too cold, you can mix a little bit more. If it's too hot, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. You have to start the whole process again. So always better to have a dough that's a little bit too cold. The bulk fermentation is happening now. What we're looking for is a dough that's going to double the size. That's going to be a good indication of the fermentation has started. Now we're gonna shape the dough. So what I like to do here, 2 hands, we're gonna give a nice ball shape. We're gonna keep it nice and tight. You can see just after a few minutes sitting on the counter, the texture changed already. And the dough is already like changing, evolving. So all the flour All the gluten content is gonna absorb the moisture within the dough, and it's gonna feel very stretchy, very bouncy. What I like to do is to cut the dough on top here. You do a cross right in the middle. I'm predefining the shape of the dough. I want something square and rectangle to incorporate the butter. And I'm gonna put this on a sheet tray with a plastic cover. It will just wrap it up. We're gonna leave a little bit of room. Now we're just going to wait. The dough has been sitting out for about 2 hours. As you see, like it's light and puffy right now. So with the plastic on top, just gonna press the dough down to really remove all that gas, all these bubbles, and you can feel the gas getting chased out of the dough. If you don't do this, what's gonna happen is that the dough is going to over ferment. All that fermentation that you need before the baking eventually turns sour. You're not gonna have the result you're looking for. The volume is not gonna be there, and the flavor is gonna be different. I just finished the first degas. I'm gonna put this in the fridge for 1 hour. I'm gonna do the second degas, and then we're gonna start the lamination. The lamination process is very important as we're gonna give all the layers to the croissant. Here I have my butter that's squared out, and the particularity of this butter, which is one of the most important things, is that this butter is like French butter. It is very, 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 very flexible. As you can see, you can bend it and it won't break. So this butter has very low water content, and butter is gonna give all that texture, beautiful texture of the croissant. If it's too cold, you won't be able to bend it. You want cold but very flexible. And you wanna have your dough as cold as possible because we're going to give the fold, and as we're doing this, the dough is gonna get warmer and warmer. I'm gonna have to work a little bit fast here. We're gonna place our butter about halfway through the dough. So I'm gonna cut my dough in half right here. You want everything to match up and pile up as perfectly as possible. I'm gonna flip my dough, bring the dough to the edge of the butter. And you see I put this on parchment paper so it doesn't stick. We're starting doing the first fold. It's gonna give us that light, puffy texture. For this, I use a rolling pin. The layers within the croissant is one of the most important part of making a beautiful croissant. It has to be flaky, it has to be separated. It cannot be too buttery, it cannot be too dry either. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but we're gonna roll this very gently, as delicately as possible. So even for home, this will be a large batch. I flip it because I wanna make sure that I evenly put pressure on the butter and the dough. I'm trying to make sure I keep that layer of butter sandwich between the dough and as consistent as possible. If it gets too warm, we should definitely put this in the fridge. It takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of strength to roll that dough. You don't have to make that big of a batch either, but I want to show you the process of making by hand, which is not the easiest and not ideal either, but which is still possible to do at home. There's many different ways of doing this. People can wrap the dough around the butter and push it in, do like a pocket. I like to do it this way because the butter goes as close as possible to the edge and you don't have an excess of dough on the side. I usually work my dough around 0 to 4 degrees Celsius and I work the butter around 18. We're gonna fold the dough 1/3 of the way, like this, and over here. You can see we started with 2 pieces of dough, 1 piece of butter, and now we're multiplying the layers. So there's 3 layers here, plus 3, there's 9 layers. We're gonna chill it for about an hour, and then we'll give another fold. Here's the dough we just folded. You see it's a little puffy, a little bit more round, a little less even. And this is the dough that went through the sheeter with a single fold and double fold. A dough sheeter, it's a machine that has 2 cylinders where we can adjust the height of the cylinders. So essentially you pass your dough through it and that makes it thinner and thinner. And you can automate it and you can do this very quickly and have a very consistent result. Here we've given a single fold, double fold. The dough has chilled for another hour. And now we're gonna process the final sheeting. So we're gonna go to 4 millimeters, which is the thickness for a croissant. We're gonna make it wide enough so we can fold it in half and actually cut those triangles. So just a light dust of flour right here. And the machine is programmed, so it will know which thickness to go. So as you see, as the cylinders are going down, the dough is gonna get thinner and thinner. You can have too many layers in the case you're stretching the dough way too much and you have a dough that will tear apart a little bit. You can have too little layers if you don't give the right folds. It won't be as light and as puffy. If your dough is tearing at this point, there's nothing else you can do. You have to start the process from the beginning. There's no way to save it. Once our dough is off the shear, what we do first is to relax the dough. We stretch it so much one way. We want to make sure it doesn't retract. So we're going to relax the dough by just pulling the sides like this. We have a lot of layers here. A single fold and a double fold. So we're like probably thousands of layers right here. So once I have relaxed my dough here, I'm just going to fold it in half. Exert a light pressure on the dough just to mark the middle. And I'm going to cut it with a sharp blade. I'm going to cut it right here. This is called a bicycle, just to mark out the dough. So I'm gonna push it to 9 centimeters, 9.5. You will see thousands of different ways of making croissant, different sizes. I like mine to be like 9.5 by 26, 27. And then we'll go all the way down. We'll mark it on the bottom as well. So now I'm gonna take my blade and my ruler. I'm gonna cut through to make my triangles. I use a razor blade because it doesn't press and crush the layers. It really like cuts them through. What I want you to see here is all these layers, hundreds and hundreds of layers of butter and dough. They're overlapping each other, and you can see the dough and the butter are like distinct lines, and that's what makes like a beautiful croissant. It's because all those lines so they like make those layers and make this very light texture. You want to do this as quick as possible while it's on the counter so the dough doesn't get too soft. It's important to like rest at this stage because we've stretched the dough so much. And we want the dough to relax a little bit before we give the final shaping, so we don't lose that definition of the croissant. So we're done with cutting the croissant. Now we're going to put them in the fridge for about an hour to rest. Just cut our croissant, and the fun part, I would say, the part that everyone loves is rolling the croissant. For this, we just push at the top of the croissant, and we roll it down straight to make sure it's symmetrical, and I push it down slightly. Remember, we sheet those croissants to 4 millimeters, and we see those layers. We can really see the definition of the butter and the dough still. And this will appear when we actually bake those croissants. I like to leave the tip of my croissant just tucked slightly under and not too far in. So you want something as puffy, as light, as aerated as possible. If the tail of the croissant is tucked in, it's going to keep everything tight and prevent it from developing. Once we shape our croissant, two things that are important here. I slightly press it down, so to prevent from the dough to rolling as it's like proofing and baking. I also leave enough space within the croissant. The volume is gonna double to triple, so I wanna make sure there's space in between so they don't touch each other. And also to make sure that the air circulates while baking throughout the tray in between the croissant, so you have a nice development of the croissant. So those are ready and ready to go in the proofer. They're rolled. We are 28 degrees Celsius with 80 to 85% humidity. So very important is when we really like push the fermentation. If you go over 28 Celsius, you might take the risk of melting the butter. So you don't want to be too hot. And that humidity inside the proofer is very important to help keeping the dough moist so it doesn't dry out and helping develop as well without too much heat. This is our proofer. It's just a box with some heat and humidity. They're going to be in here for about 2 hours. Now the yeast is really going to get to work, start activating within the croissant and puff up our croissant. These have been proofing for about an hour and a half. They're ready to bake. So the test, the jiggle. You want to shake it a little bit and see that jiggle. You see the croissant is like puffy, light, aerated, and we're going to put egg wash on top. Ideally, I like to do is to stay within the top layer and not go to the side. So I'm gonna brush lightly just right here. You're avoiding the sides because you want that beautiful layer separation on the side, and you want to see like flecking off and like puffing up. So if you were to put egg wash, you will kind of like stick and attach those layers together. In our egg wash, we put some whole eggs, a little bit of cream, and a tiny bit of salt. This is only to make the croissant shiny and golden. This is now proofed egg wash. Next step is baking. These are Mive oven. They are German ovens actually. Some of the best on market for baking. I love the precision and the consistency of it. We're going really hot, 190 for about 8 to 9 minutes. We want nice, crispy, flaky layers on side. We want these layers to puff up, so we want to go really hot. If you want to bake at a lower temperature, you'll form like a crust outside of your viennoiserie, and it'll be like very unpleasant to eat. So you want like nice, like crunchy bite, and keep it that moisture in the center is very important. So you don't go really hot. Actually, what's happening here is that those layers of butter and dough with elasticity and the steam inside puffing, rising up, and developing those layers and the texture of the croissant. All right, we can talk, but eventually we have to eat this. You know, the ultimate experience. What makes it special here for me, that golden, caramelized, like shiny crust on the outside. You see all those layers, those flaky layers, we preserve them. It's light, it smells good. Don't use a regular knife, serrated knife to really cut through those layers. You're gonna hear that flakes. You're gonna see those little flakes like falling apart, which is normal. And then our look inside the croissant. So here, our cross section. The honeycomb defines like the fermentation, the layers, and everything we've been building. So you can see this right here as a little tight because I'm very picky. Could have cooked a little bit longer. But overall, like a pretty good croissant. That thin white line right under the crust, I call it the lining, which should be like almost inexistent. It should be like a super thin, like paper, like white line. Just gets thicker. If your oven is not hot enough, it's gonna get thicker and thicker. You're gonna slowly like dry the croissant instead of cooking it like very quickly. And that will make the croissant like very unpleasant. And of course, we're gonna take a bite. So cheers to our beautiful croissant. Happy.